Some books entertain you, but some books awaken something deep inside you. Welcome to BookLeesh, where we don't just review stories, we unravel life through them. If you're someone who believes that a single page can shift your perspective and a single story can change your path, then you're in the right place. Let's dive in. Have you ever looked at the sky and felt a whisper in your heart, something telling you that you're meant for more? That somewhere beyond the horizon lies a treasure not made of gold or jewels, but of meaning, of purpose, of something only you were born to find? There was once a boy named Santiago, not a prince, not a warrior, just a shepherd. But in his heart, he carried the restless winds of a dream. He dreamed of treasure, not once, but twice. A dream so strange, so persistent, it wouldn't let him go. What could a mere shepherd know about treasures buried beneath the Egyptian pyramids? And yet, he chose to believe. He could have stayed with his sheep, with safety. But belief does something dangerous. It makes ordinary people chase impossible things. So he sells his flock, takes the coins, and boards a ship to Africa. The world should reward such bravery, right? But no, he's robbed, left with nothing. And just like that, the dream crashes into the dust. Maybe that's the cruel joke of life. When you finally take the leap, the ground disappears beneath you. Santiago is stranded, lost, heartbroken. But he doesn't return. He decides to work, to rebuild, to try again. Why? Because some part of him, tiny, fragile, still dares to believe. And while cleaning crystal glasses for a merchant who's long given up on life, Santiago brings back hope, not just for himself, but for the merchant too. He learns something vital. Sometimes you walk toward your dream, and other times, your dream teaches you how to walk. But just when it seems like he's forgotten the pyramids, forgotten the treasure, the wind calls again. A pull he can't resist. He joins a caravan crossing the desert. Miles of sand, silence, danger, time, doubt. But in every grain, he learns the language of the world, spoken not with words, but with omens. He meets an Englishman searching for the secrets of alchemy. Books, symbols, the philosopher's stone. But Santiago? He listens to the world. He watches. He feels. And slowly, he begins to understand. Maybe the real alchemy isn't about gold. It's about transformation. The soul's transformation. But life doesn't let anyone go that easy. The desert is not just sand. It's a place of testing. In the oasis, he meets her, Fatima, and something shifts. She is not a distraction. She is a sign, a piece of the treasure, but not the end. He could have stayed, loved her, lived a quiet life, but the true treasure still calls, and love, if it is real, won't stop him. It will fuel him. As he prepares to leave, war brews in the desert. Tribal tensions rise. Fear creeps in. He's told it's too dangerous, that he could die, that it's foolish to continue. But he walks on, and then the alchemist appears. Mysterious, wise, dangerous. He sees in Santiago what no one else could potential. The ability to become more. Not just a boy chasing dreams, but a soul seeking its destiny. The alchemist doesn't give answers. He gives tests. He teaches Santiago that fear is the only thing that stops transformation. That when you truly want something, the universe conspires, but only if you risk everything. And Santiago does. Captured by warriors, threatened with death. He's told to turn into the wind or die. How do you become the wind? You remember who you are, what you've learned, that everything in the world, the sun, The wind, the desert, the heart speaks the same language. He closes his eyes, opens his soul, becomes the wind. They let him go. He reaches the pyramids, falls to his knees, tears in his eyes. He digs, but he's beaten, robbed again. One of the men laughs and says he once had a dream about a treasure buried in a ruined church in Spain, beneath a sycamore tree. Santiago freezes. That's where he came from. The treasure was there all along. He journeys back to the place he began, to the tree under which he once dreamed, and there he finds it. Real, tangible, gold, jewels. Yes, but it was never about that. It was about the journey, about faith, about love, about listening to your heart, even when it trembles, especially when it trembles. How many of us are living like Santiago before his dream? Comfortable, familiar, but empty. How many of us have ignored the signs, the dreams, the gut whispers? What if your treasure is waiting, not in a faraway land, but in your return to yourself? The Alchemist isn't just a story. It's a mirror. It tells us that life will test you, that you will be broken, that love will both anchor and challenge you, that the treasure is real, but only for those who dare to search. And sometimes, the greatest discovery is not gold, not fame, not comfort, but the realization that you can transform, that you already hold the power of alchemy within you. So ask yourself, what is your dream? Where is your pyramid? And most of all, are you willing to follow the signs, even when they lead you through the desert? Because the world is waiting, and your treasure is calling. You'd think finding the treasure would be the end, but that's where most of us misunderstand life. See, Santiago found gold, but what he truly discovered was himself. That's the part most people overlook. The real treasure wasn't buried in the sand. It was buried in the silence, the setbacks, the love he left behind, and the voice he chose to follow even when it made no sense. But what if Santiago had ignored that voice? What if he had stayed a shepherd? What if he had never dared to believe the dream meant something? There are thousands, maybe millions, of people who live like that, who bury their dreams under routine, under doubt, under fear disguised as practicality. Santiago wasn't special because of what he found. He was special because he listened. And that is terrifying, because listening to your heart isn't always comforting. It whispers when the world shouts. It nudges you toward risk when safety seems smarter. It asks you to leave just when everything feels stable. When he met the Englishman in the desert, Santiago saw someone obsessed with answers, with theory, with books that talked about turning lead into gold. But the Englishman couldn't see the gold in front of him in the desert's silence, in the journey, in the people. Santiago, on the other hand, learned not from pages, but from patterns. The way the wind changed, the way camels moved, the way love looked in Fatima's eyes. He began to realize something profound. Everything in the universe is connected. Everything is alive. And if you pay close attention, really close, it starts to speak to you. But speaking is not enough. You have to act. And that's where most people stop. They hear, they feel, but they freeze. The world doesn't reward those who hear their calling. It rewards those who follow it. Remember the crystal merchant? He had dreams once. Dreams of traveling to Mecca. Dreams that once set his heart on fire. But he buried them. Not because he didn't care, but because he was afraid of what life might feel like after the dream was fulfilled. He feared the emptiness that might come when there's nothing left to chase. So he chose comfort over calling. And Santiago saw in him a warning, the cost of a life unlived. So he moved, always forward, always deeper into the unknown. But let's not forget what it cost him. He was beaten, robbed, betrayed. He nearly died. He was asked to leave the woman he loved. He had to walk across endless sands, face armed tribes, and stare death in the face. But each time, he chose to continue. Why? Because once you've heard your heart, it's impossible to unhear it. He realized something else, too, that fear of suffering is often worse than the suffering itself. Most people are paralyzed not by pain, but by the idea of pain. We create monsters in our minds and let them rule our decisions. But Santiago? He walked through those shadows. And on the other side, he transformed. You see, the alchemist didn't give him gold. He gave him something much more valuable. He showed him how to believe in his own legend. He reminded Santiago that we all carry within us a spark, a whisper of the divine, and that the world bends not to our will, but to our willingness to believe. The journey wasn't about becoming someone else. It was about becoming who he was always meant to be. And that's the real alchemy. So here's the truth most of us hide from. Every single person is born with a personal legend, a calling, a mission, and the world gives you signs. It places omens in your path, but only a few ever follow them. Because the price is high, you will be laughed at. You will lose friends. You will fall. But if you keep going, if you dare to trust the desert, the wind, your heart, then something incredible happens. The universe moves. Not for the loudest, not for the strongest, but for the one who believes. Santiago believed, even when it hurt, even when it broke him. And that belief reshaped his world. Now imagine this. What if every time you ignored your dream, you were turning away from the exact treasure you were born to find? What if the strange coincidences, the gut feelings, the heartbreaks, were all signs trying to guide you? Would you listen? Could you? Santiago was once just like anyone else, a boy with a dream. But he acted, and because of that, he became something more. Not just an adventurer, not just a lover, but a man who understood the soul of the world. And that kind of wisdom, that kind of transformation, that's the real treasure. Not the coins, not the jewels, but the unshakable truth that life speaks to those who are brave enough to listen. You'd think the hardest part was crossing the desert, but the real desert was inside him. It was the space between who he thought he was and who he was meant to become. Because somewhere along the journey, Santiago stopped chasing gold and started chasing understanding. Not many notice this change, but it's everything. In the beginning, he wanted a chest of coins, a dream of riches beneath the Egyptian sands. But step by step, trial by trial, he began to realize every person, every setback, every whisper from the wind was carving something deeper into his soul. The boy who once counted sheep was now deciphering omens. The same hands that led flocks were now shaping fate. But it wasn't a straight path. Nothing in this life worth having ever is. When he reached the oasis, the place everyone said was safe, he could have stayed. It had water, shade, and love. Fatima. Her eyes didn't ask him to stay, but they said everything. And still, he left. Why? Because he knew. If he stayed, he'd betray the very thing that made her love him in the first place, his courage to dream. Sometimes love isn't about holding on. It's about letting someone become everything they were meant to be, even if that means losing them. And Fatima understood. She told him, "Go." Not because it was easy, but because it was true. There's a kind of love that doesn't chain you. It fuels you. That's what he found in her. That's what made him stronger. But the road ahead wasn't peaceful. He faced war. He faced silence. He faced the alchemist. And for the first time, Santiago saw someone who didn't talk about destiny. He embodied it. The alchemist didn't answer questions. He asked harder ones. Are you willing to risk everything for your dream? What are you afraid of losing that you didn't truly own in the first place? Why do you need the world to promise you success before you begin? Each answer Santiago gave was met with silence, because the answers weren't the point. The transformation was. The alchemist didn't teach him how to turn lead into gold. He taught him to become gold. And becoming gold means burning, means pressure, means loss, but it also means light. That's why, when Santiago was captured, when they mocked his dream, when they demanded he become the wind or die, he didn't beg. He closed his eyes and listened. He listened to the desert, to the wind, to the sun, to the very soul of the world. And in that silence, he understood that we are not separate. We are not alone. That everything is one. That if the desert moves, he can move. That if the wind flows, he can flow. He stood before death and became the wind. Not through magic, not through power, but through surrender, through faith. And they let him go. He could have turned back then. He had proven enough. But the pyramids still called, not because he needed the gold, but because he needed to finish the story. You see, half-finished dreams are the heaviest burdens. They haunt you. And he couldn't carry that weight. So he walked on. And when he finally knelt at the pyramids, when he dug with trembling hands, when he felt the earth resist him, he smiled, because even if there was nothing there, even if the treasure turned out to be the journey itself, he would have no regrets. But life has a wicked sense of humor. He was beaten again, mocked again. A man laughed and told him, I had a dream too, of a treasure buried under a tree in a church in Spain. The same church where Santiago first dreamed. And suddenly, it all made sense. The circle closed. The dream had led him far from home, only to bring him back. Because he had to change before he could receive. If he'd found the treasure too soon, he wouldn't have understood it. If he'd stayed in Spain, he never would have grown. He had to lose everything, so he could learn what he truly carried. He had to leave love, so he could return to it stronger. He had to cross the desert, so he could find himself. And isn't that just like life? You chase something far away, only to discover it was always inside you. But the journey? It wasn't wasted. It was necessary. Because it's not the treasure that changes you. It's the search. Santiago didn't just find gold under the tree. He found peace. He found clarity. He found himself. And when he laughed, when he cried, when he held that treasure in his hands, it wasn't about wealth. It was about completion. Not of a story, but of a soul. Because he had followed every sign, listened to every whisper, risked everything, and the universe rewarded him. Not because he was perfect, but because he was faithful. And there he was, kneeling beneath the same sycamore tree where the story began. But he wasn't the same boy who once rested there dreaming of sheep and treasure. No, he was a man now. Not because of age, but because he had faced life and listened. That tree had watched him leave in wonder, And now it welcomed him back in awe. He had crossed seas, deserts, fear, and love. He had lost everything, only to realize he had everything within him all along. And that's what the Alchemist really teaches us. That the treasure you're looking for, it's not out there. It's inside. But you have to go out there to find it. You have to get lost to be found. You have to be willing to walk away from what's good, to discover what's true. Because no one ever became who they were meant to be by staying in the comfort of the familiar. You'll be called foolish. You'll be told to give up. You'll be robbed, maybe not of money, but of hope. You'll fall in love. And that love will either keep you where you are or inspire you to become something greater. You'll want to quit. And you'll wonder if the journey was a mistake. But when you reach the end, when you return to the tree of your soul, you'll understand. Nothing was wasted. Not the pain. Not the detours. Not the silence. Not even the heartbreak. Everything was building you, refining you, preparing you. And isn't that the most beautiful kind of magic? To look back and see that every step, every twist, every tear was guiding you back to yourself? That's why Santiago laughed when he uncovered the gold. Not because he was rich, but because he understood. He understood why he had to go, why he had to lose, why he had to believe, even when belief felt like madness. He had to become the kind of person who could carry the treasure. The kind of person who didn't just seek the world's riches, but its meaning. And now, what about you? Have you listened? Not to this story, but to your own? When was the last time you looked at your life and asked yourself what you truly wanted? Not what others expect from you. Not what's safe. Not what's proven. But what sets your soul on fire? Have you ignored the omens? Or have you followed them even a little? Because the signs, they never stop. They're in the books you pick up, the people you meet, the pain you feel, the moments of quiet when your heart whispers the same thing over and over again, hoping someday you'll listen. And if you don't, that's the greatest tragedy. Not failure, but forgetting. Forgetting that you, too, are here for a reason. That you, too, have a treasure to find. That your personal legend is not a fantasy. It's a truth waiting to be lived. So take the risk. Cross your desert. Lose what's not meant for you. Follow the wind, even when it blows you off course. And when it hurts. When it gets heavy. When the world laughs. Smile. Because that's the sign you're getting close. That's the sign you're becoming someone new. That's the sign you're living. And when you finally return, when you kneel before your own sycamore tree, you'll understand something so powerful it will bring you to your knees. The treasure was never the point. You were. Your courage. Your faith. Your heart. The journey didn't just reveal the gold. It forged it. In you. So, when this story ends, don't just say it was beautiful. Don't just close the book and return to your routine. Ask yourself, what is my legend? What is calling me? And am I brave enough to answer? Because the universe? It's still speaking. And your story? It's just beginning. Thank you for walking this journey with me today. If this story stirred something inside you, don't let it fade. The Alchemist isn't just a book, it's a mirror. And sometimes we need to read a story to finally understand our own. So I won't just say, go read it. I'll say, go live it. Let this be more than content you consumed. Let it be a call to adventure. And if you felt even a spark of connection here, then trust me, the full book holds a fire that can change your life. Thank you so much for listening, for feeling, and for being a part of this experience. This is BookLeesh, where stories aren't just told, they're lived. Until next time, keep turning pages and keep chasing your legend.